Hi friends, in this video I am going to show you how to create a WhatsApp clone using React.js and Firebase. So first of all I am going to show you the demo of the project. So here you can see that this is the first page of our project of our WhatsApp clone. So I am going to show you the demo by using two Google account. You can see as like this way. So you can see that this is the original WhatsApp web. So in our WhatsApp clone, you can see that here is the logo. Here is the name of our website. So I have given the name of the clone as like this way. So here you can see the text, and here you can see the steps for using the WhatsApp clone as like this way. Okay. So in the right side you can see a button, that means a Google icon for login. So we are going to log in by using Google authentication. Then next you can see that there is a button below that is sign in with the phone number. So first of all, I am going to click on this Google icon. At that time, a pop-up will be arrived and we can select our Google account from there. Okay. So now we have redirected to the home page after login. So here you can see that there is in the nav bar profile image of the user, and after that you can see a logout button, and next in the right side you can see the picture and some text, and left side you can see there is a sidebar. Here the list of the users will be shown. So in the other Google account I am going to click on this Google account icon again. At that time the user will be logged in and will be redirected to the home page. So here you can see that the available user. So we have already logged in by using this user. So in the both Google account WhatsApp clone, you can see that in the home page there is the user is listed. Okay. So next I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the user, and at that time you can see that we will be redirected to the chat page of our WhatsApp clone. In this page, here you can see in the nav bar the name of the user to whom we are sending the message and the profile image of that user. And also you can see the logout button after that. Okay. So in the bottom of this page, you can see there is a text page, there is a text field, and also a clip icon, and also a send icon. So first of all, I am going to send a message. Hi. Hi to this user. Okay. So I am going to click on this send button. At that time, you can see that it is shown here. Okay. So when we look the other user's account, you can see that I am going to take the user by clicking here. At that time you can see that it is also listed here. So here it is showing the name of the user who sends the message. Okay. So next I'm going to send as hello. At that time you can see that it is shown here also. Then you can see the name of the user who sends that message. Okay. So we can chat as like this way. Okay, fine. Next I'm going to send a file to the user. So for that, I'm going to click on this click button. At that time, you can see that the pop-up window for selecting the image will be arrived. So from here, I'm going to select one of the image. So I'm going to click on this image. So you can see that the preview of the image will be shown after this text field. So I'm going to click on this send button. At that time, you can see that this image will be sent. So I'm going to select one more image and I'm going to send. Okay, so now you can see that this image as like this way. Okay, so next I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this logout button. So when we click this logout button, we will be redirected to this sign in page after the logged out. Okay, so next I'm going to show you how we can log in by using our phone number. So I'm going to click on the sign in with the phone number button here. then we will be redirected to this phone sign in page. And here you can see that we can select the country code as like this way. So I am going to select the country code. So I'm selecting as like this way, and I am going to give the phone number. The next I'm going to click on this send OTP button. At the time you can see that a reCAPTCHA section is arrived. From here I'm going to click on this empty space to ensure that I'm not a robot. Okay, so now an OTP will be arrived into my phone number. So next I'm going to give that OTP here, 847813. Okay, so next I'm going to click on the verify OTP button. At that time you can see that the user will be verified and will be redirected to the home page.
If this video is helpful to you, please consider subscribing to the channel, like the video and comment your feedback.
So I have created a new React.js project using create React app and removed all the boilerplate codes. You can see the project here. Next I'm going to do is to create a new component called sign in. So in the components folder, I'm going to create the sign in component as like this way, sign in.js. Next, I am going to call the sign in component in the app component. So now you can see that sign in here. So next I'm going to do is to install the Material UI. So for that I'm going to the Material UI website and I'm going to click on the installation button here. So we will be redirected to the installation page in which you can see that in the beginning itself there is command for installing the Material UI into our project. So I'm going to copy this command and paste and run in the new terminal. So now Material UI will be installed into our project. Okay, so Material UI has been installed into our project. You can see that in the package.json. So next I'm going to do is I'm going to the Material UI website, and here in the components in the sidebar you can see there is an app bar. I'm going to use one of the design of the app bar in our project. So here is the app bar. You can see different designs are there in the app bar list. So I'm going to use a simple design. This is one of the basic app bar design. So I'm going to copy the code completely and I'm going to paste it here in the sign in component. And I'm going to change it as sign in. So now you can see that. Okay, so here you can see that there is a menu in the app bar. So we don't want this menu icon. And I'm going to remove that menu icon as like this way. Next, I'm going to remove these two things. And you can see that this is a structure as of now. So we don't want this login button also. So I'm going to remove this login button from here. Okay. So next I'm going to take the original WhatsApp web. So here you can see that this is the structure of the sign in page of the original WhatsApp web. So here you can see the title, logo, and some text steps and QR code and the button for link with the phone number. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this typography and I'm going to use the H3 tag. Here I am giving it as words, chat, web as like this way. So now you can see that this is a structure as of now. Words, chat, web. Next, I'm going to create a new file that is sign in.css as like this way, and I'm going to import sign in.css as like this way. So now we can use the styles that is given in the sign in.css file. So first of all, I'm going to give a class name here as title. Then next I'm going to create this class as title here as like this way, and I'm giving the font size as 13 px. Okay, then I'm going to give the font weight 500. Okay, then I'm going to give the margin left. Here I'm going to give the margin left as 125 px. So as of now, this is a structure. Next, I'm going to import an image from my system itself. So here I have downloaded an image. So I'm going to create a new folder that is images, and inside this images folder I'm going to import the images from my system. So here in the system you can see that there is images, that is I'm going to import this WhatsApp logo as like this way into this images folder. You can see that here. Next I'm going to do is to import that image as like this way from. Okay, then next I'm going to use that image. So for that I'm going to use the image tag, and I'm giving it as source WhatsApp. Okay, so now you can see that this is a structure as of now. I'm going to use this image tag before this or above of this h3 tag, and I'm going to give a class name here, that is class name logo, and I'm going to define that here width 30 px, height 30 px, and margin left 125 px. So now you can see that the structure as like this way. So next I'm going to do is, here the margin left is given as 125 px. I'm going to reduce that to as 20 px. So as like this way. So now it is a structure. Next I'm going to do is to put this image and h3 tag inside a div. So here I am going to define or use a div and put this image and h3 tag inside this div as like this way. And I'm going to do is to give a class name for this div, that is nav content. Next I'm going to define this nav content style, that is nav. I'm giving as margin top 20 px and display flex and align items at the center. Okay, so now you can see that the structure of as like this way. The next I'm going to give the height of this nav bar. So for that, here I am going to give the height as 230 px and a background color. So I'm going to select a background color from the HTML color code. So for that, I'm going to take the HTML color code website, and here I'm going to select a color which have similarities with this. So I'm going to select that color, So here I'm giving it as a green. I'm going to copy this and to paste it here. So now you can see that the structure as like this way. This is a better color, so I'm going to copy this and to paste it here. So now you can see that the structure of our clone as of now is like this way. Okay, fine. The next I'm going to do is to use the card component from the material UI after this div. So here I'm going to use the card as like this way. I have imported it from the material UI. Then I'm going to use as like this way. So we have imported the card and the card content from the material UI. Then here you can see that the card as like this way. So I'm going to give first the class name to the card and the card content. So here I'm giving a class name as box and card content as sign in card. Next I'm going to give this styles. So for that I'm going to give as box width 70 percentage, height 400 px, position absolute, top 0, left 0, background white, margin top 100 px, and next margin left as 150 px and padding 40 px. So next I'm going to do is to, we can see that here this is a structure. It contains the card as like this way. So now you can see that as like this way. Okay. So next I'm going to do is I'm going to give this text as like this way. So I'm going to use the h2 tag. So here as h2 I'm giving as use what's chat on your computer as like this way. Then I'm going to give the class name as description. So here and I'm giving the class name as description as like this way. So now you can see that I'm giving the descriptions style, font weight 100 and the color I'm giving a dark gray. So as like this way I'm going to select a dark gray from here. Okay. So here you can see that use WhatsApp on your computer. The next I'm going to do is to give the steps as like this way. So here you can see that they are showing some steps. So I'm giving the steps as in the h5 tag. I'm going to give 3 steps. First, open WhatsApp. on your computer. Next, I'm going to give it as to sign in using Google account. And as a third step, I'm going to give as sign in using phone number. Okay, so now you can see that here it is a structure as like this way. So I'm going to give a class name steps here, class name as step for the three steps as like this way. So next I'm going to give description or define this step class name. So here I am going to give as font weight 400 and font size 20 px. Font weight 400 and font size as 20 px. So now you can see that the structure as like this way. Okay. Next I'm going to put this inside a div. So here I am going to put these inside a div as like this way. So I'm going to use a div and I'm going to paste these or wrap these steps here. Okay. So next I'm going to use a div as like this way, and here I'm going to give an image tag. Here I'm going to use the logo of the image. So I'm going to import an image from the system itself. So I'm going to import the image which is the this image. Okay, so here I am going to import first that image. Import Google from. Okay, so now you can see that here I have imported the image. So I am going to use this image here. So you can see that the image. Okay, so I'm giving a class name Google itself as like this way, and I'm going to define that class. So I'm giving as width 150 px. So now you can see that the structure as like this way. Okay, so next what I'm going to do is I'm going to give class name for this div here. So I'm giving the class name as sign in button. So here as like this way, class name sign in button. And next I'm going to define this class name. So I'm going to copy this and to paste it here. And I'm going to give as border 1px solid gray. And next I'm going to give width 250 px. Then next I'm going to give as height 200 px. Next I'm going as margin left 250 px. So now you can see that the structure as like this way. Okay. So next I am giving the text align to center and padding top about 60 px. Padding top Okay, so now you can see that the structure as like this way. Okay, so this is the structure. Here it for the original WhatsApp it is QR code. So here we are giving the Google icon. So as a button. So next what I'm going to do is we have already given the class name for the div here, that is sign in card. I'm going to define that sign in card as like this way, and I'm giving the display flex. Okay, so now you can see that the structure as like this way. Okay, next I'm going to do is to give a button as like this. So I'm going to give a button below this card content. That is, I'm going to import the button from the material UI as like this way, and I'm going to give the name of the button as sign in with the phone number. So sign in with the phone number. Okay. Next, I'm going to give the color success. So here you can see that the sign in with the phone number button is like this way. So this is a structure of the sign in page of the WhatsApp web. Okay. So next I am going to integrate the Firebase authentication into our project. So for that I am going to take the Firebase website, and here I am going to click on this link. Then we will be redirected to a page where I'm going to click on this Get Started button. From here, I'm going to click on this Add Project button. And next, I'm going to give the name of the project. So I'm going to give the name of the project as WhatsApp clone. Next, I'm going to click on the Continue button. After that, I'm going to disable this analytics and click on Create Project. Next, our new project will be created. Okay, so our new project has been created. I'm going to click on the Continue button. Then we will be redirected to the Firebase console. Here you can see that there are three icons for iOS, Android, and web. I'm going to click on the web icon, and as a first step, I'm going to register the app. So for that, I'm going to give the name of the app as WhatsApp clone. Next, I'm going to click on the register app button. Then as a second step, we can see that we have to install the Firebase into our project. As I am using npm, we need to use npm install firebase. So I'm going to copy this command and to run the command in the new terminal. So now Firebase will be installed into our project. So now Firebase has been installed into our project. You can see that in the package.json as like this way. Okay. So next I'm going to do is in the document you can see that I'm going to copy this code snippet completely, and next I'm going to create a new folder called Firebase, and inside this folder I'm going to create a file called setup.js as like this way. Then in the setup.js file I'm going to paste that code snippet that I have copied from the document. So next after that I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these commands for make it more clear as like this way. So now you can see that here is a Firebase config which contains the API key or domain, etc. We are not going to make any changes in this Firebase config. So I'm going to minimize it. So they have initialized the app by using importing initialize app from Firebase app. So the thing that we have to do first is we have to next I'm going to do is to click on the continue to console button here, and you can see that we will be redirected to the console of our project. So here in the sidebar, you can see that there is a build option. There you can see the authentication, abstract, firebase, database, etc. So I'm going to click on this authentication. Then after that, I'm going to click on this get started button. Okay. So next I'm going to select the Google for authentication. So after that, I'm going to click on the enable button. Then I'm going to select my mail account and I'm going to click on save button. Next, you can see that Google is enabled. After that, I'm going to our project and here we have to import something from Firebase auth. So I'm going to import two things from Firebase auth. That is, one is get auth and next I'm going to import is Google auth provider as like this way. So after importing this get auth and Google auth provider, I'm going to do is to define two variables. One I am going to give the name as auth and I am going to assign the get auth function into it. Then to this get auth function, we have to give next is to give this app variable as an argument. So when we are using this Firebase, Firestore, authentication, what we have to do is to pass this app into this function that we have imported as an argument. Okay, as like this way. Next, I'm going to do is to export this auth variable for using it in another file. So next, I'm going to do is to define another variable that is I'm giving it as Google provider. And I'm going to assign the Google auth provider into this variable as like this way. Next, I'm going to pass this app as like that of before as an argument. Okay, so after that, I'm going to export this Google provider for using it in another file or all other files. Okay, so here setup.js file has completed. So next I'm going to do is in the sign in component, I'm going to define a new function that is Google sign in as an arrow function. So I'm going to define a function Google sign in as an arrow function. So here next I'm going to do is to import a function from Firebase auth. So the function that I'm going to import is sign in with the pop-up. Okay, so we have imported the sign in with the pop-up function from the Firebase auth first. So we have to use the sign in with the pop-up function inside this Google sign in as like this way. Then I am going to give async await and also try catch. Then I am going to give this sign in with the pop-up function inside this try and I am giving the console.error as like this way. So next I am going to do is to call this Google sign in function inside this div of sign in button. So inside this on click of this div, I am going to give the Google sign in function as like this way. Next, I am going to give a style to this sign in button here as cursor pointer. Okay. After that, I'm going to give two arguments to this sign in with the pop-up function. So we have to pass the auth and the Google provider as the arguments into this sign in with the pop-up function. So we have already defined this auth and the Google provider in the setup.js file. So I'm going to do is to I'm going to import these two variables from setup.js file as like this way. Okay, so next I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this Google icon or button here. So at the time you can see that a pop-up will be arrived. From here I am going to select the Google account. Then the user will be logged in. So that we can see in the Firebase. So I am going to select the users here and you can see that the details of the user who is logged in. Okay, so we have done the authentication through Firebase. Next I'm going to do is to comment this sign in component, and after that I am going to create a new component called main.js as like this way. Then next I'm going to do is to call this main component in the app.js as like this way. Okay, so now you can see that the main component here. So next what I'm going to do is to create a new component called sidebar.js sidebar. Okay, so after that I'm going to create another component called navbar.js as like this way. Okay, so we have created the components main, sidebar and navbar. And in this main component, I am going to call this sidebar in the grid. So I have used the grid from Material UI and I am giving container for this top grid. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this main component into three parts. For that, I'm going to use the grid here with item xx is equal to 12. And in the second grid, I'm giving the item xx is equal to 5. And in the first grid, I'm going to give the or call the navbar component. And in the second grid, I'm going to call the sidebar component as like this way. Then next I'm going to call the or use the third grid here as like this way, and I am giving the item xx is equal to 7. And in that grid I am going to use the div. So here you can see that we are divided it into three parts, that is navbar, sidebar and a array bar section. The next I'm going to do is I'm going to use the app bar from the Material UI. So here you can see that there is different designs of app bar are available in this Material UI. So I'm going to select a basic navbar design. So here you can see that this is one of the basic app bar design. So I'm going to copy the complete code from here and I am going to paste it in the navbar.js or navbar component as like this way. Then next I am going to rename it as navbar. So now you can see that there is showing an error that is about the menu. So we don't want the menu as like this way. So I'm going to remove that menu section from here, and I'm going to remove this also. So now you can see that the structure of this navbar as like this way. So from here I am going to remove the typography also, typography completely, and I'm going to add or use avatar component from the Material UI as like this way. So here I am going to give the source attribute, and inside the source attribute I am going to give the auth. That means I am going to import the auth from Firebase setup.js file. Then I'm going to use that auth here in the source attribute to show the for images of the user as like this way auth.current-user.photo URL. So now you can see that the image of this user here in the navbar. Okay, so next I'm going to do is to change the background color of this navbar. So for that I'm going to take the HTML color code as like this way. So from here I am going to select a light gray this color. So I'm going to copy this color code and to paste it here in the SX tag background color. Okay, so now you can see that the background color of this navbar is like this way. So I'm going to use much more darker gray. Okay, I think it is fine. Okay, so next I'm going to do is I'm going to give elevation to 0 to remove the shadow there in the navbar. Okay, it is removed. Then I am going to give the height also for this navbar. So now you can see that the structure is like this way. Okay, so I think it is fine. Then next I am going to give a margin top to this profile image. So here I am going to give a class name. I am giving as profile image. I am going to create a new file called navbar.css, and here I am going to give the style for the profile image class name. So I am giving the style such as margin top as like this way. Okay, so I'm going to import the navbar.css in this navbar.js file. So now you can see that the structure as like this way. I am going to give 15 px here. Okay, so I think now it is fine. Okay, then next thing I am going to do is to give the right bar to the same color of the nav bar. So for that, it is the main component, and here in this div, I am going to give the class name that is main right. So here I am going to use I am going to create a new file called main.css, and I am going to give a style to this class name main right as like this way. So I am giving the main right class name the style that is background color, the color that is same color that is given to the navbar as like this way. So I am going to copy and paste it here as like this way, but now the color is not given. I think we have to call this. Okay, I am going to import the main.css file into this main component as like this way. At that time, now you can see that yes, there is a color to the right section. So I'm going to do is I'm going to give a height of 100 vh to this main right portion. So here I am going to give the height 100 vh. Okay, so now you can see that the color of the right bar and the nav bar of save. Okay, here is sidebar, here is nav bar and the right bar. So next what we are going to do is to list the users in the sidebar. So first for that I am going to give the design of listing the user in the sidebar. So for that I am going to take the sidebar component, and in the sidebar component I am going to do is to use the paper component from the material UI as like this way. Then next to paper component, I am going to use the list component from material UI, and inside the list component, I am going to use the list item, and inside the list item, I am going to use the avatar component from the material UI, and next to that, I am going to use the list item text component as like this way. Okay. Then here, next what I'm going to do is, you can see that here it is the structure of the user listing in the sidebar. So next what I'm going to do is, I'm going to give elevation 0 into this paper component also. At that time you can see that the shadow has gone. Next I'm going to give the SX tag in this paper component, and in the SX tag I'm going to give the border 1px solid, and here I'm going to give gray. At that time you can see that the border here is like this way. So I'm going to give a lighter gray there. So I'm going to pick a color from this HTML color code as like this way, and I'm going to give the color here as like this. So now you can see that the border of this user listing component as like this way. Okay, I think it is fine. So next what I'm going to do is, I'm going to comment this main component and to uncomment this sign in component as like this way. So here is the sign in component. So next what I'm going to do is, whenever we click this Google icon or whenever the user logged in, the details of the user need to be added to the database. So here for that I'm going to use the another Google account also. So I'm going to log in with another Google account as like this way. Here also I am going to log in with this Google account. So now you can see that here there is two users are listed in this authentication section. Okay. So next I'm going to do is, here in the sidebar you can see that there is a build button. So in the build button you can see authentication, abstract, firebase, database, real-time database, etc. So from that I'm going to click on this Firestore database, and next I'm going to click on this create database button. So from here we need to select one of the option. So I am going to select this production mode, and I am going to click on this next button. Then I am going to select the location, and I am going to click on the enable button. Okay, so now you can see that the database is created. The next I am going to the rules section, and I am going to change this into true, and I am going to click on the publish button. So now you can see that the changes have been published. Okay, so next I am going to the data section itself. Okay, so next we need to add the details of the user there. So for that I'm going to do is, I'm going to the setup.js file, and I'm going to import something from the Firebase Firestore. So I'm going to import the get to Firestore from this Firebase Firestore as like this way. After that, I'm going to do is to define a variable. So I'm going to give the name of the variable as database, and I'm going to pass this get to Firestore function into it, and I'm giving the app variable as an argument into this get to Firestore function. Okay, now the setup.js for this Firestore or database has completed, and I'm going to export this for using it in another file. Okay, so next what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take the sign in component, and here I am going to define a new function that is add user as an arrow function. Here I am going to import that is add doc function from the Firebase Firestore as like this way. So I have imported the add dog function from the Firebase Firestore. Okay. So next I'm going to do is to use the async await and try catch. So here I am going to give the console.error as like this way, and I am going to pass this add dog function inside this try. Okay. So now next I am going to do is to define a variable that is user dog, and I'm going to use the dog function from the Firebase Firestore as like this way. So here in this doc, I am passing database as the first argument, and as a second argument, okay, so I have imported the database from the setup.js, and as a second argument, I am going to pass the users collection or the collection named users. Okay, and as a third argument, I'm going to pass the ID. So we will get the ID of the user from the auth.current_user.uid. So we are passing that ID here. Okay, it's like this way. So next I'm going to call this add user function in this Google sign in function after this sign in with pop-up function. Okay, as like this way. So next I'm going to call this user talk variable inside this add dog function. So here I have called this user dog inside this add dog function as the first argument or as the argument. And next what I'm going to do is as a second argument, I'm going to pass the details of the users as the object. So first I'm passing the ID from the auth.current_user.uid. Then as a second, I'm passing the username that is auth.current_user.display name. Okay, so we will get these details from the auth such as auth.current_user.uid and the display name. And as a third detail, I'm going to pass the profile image from auth.current_user.photo URL. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the auth in the console. So now you can see that I'm going to take the console here, and here in the console you can see the auth.current_user, which contains the details such as the display name, photo URL, and the UID. Okay, so next I'm going to do is to call or click the Google icon. So we have called this add user function here in this Google sign in. Next I'm going to change this add doc into set doc. That is more better when we are using this sign in. So next I'm going to click on this Google icon here. At that time the pop-up will be arrived and the user will be logged in. Here you can see that the a user's collection is created and there is a document with the same user ID that we given here, and it contains the fields such as ID, profile image, and the username. The next time I'm going to log in with other user as like this way or other Google account. Then now another Google account is logged in. So now you can see that the new document has been created with the same user ID which contains the ID, profile image, and username. Okay. So next I'm going to do is in the app.js file, I'm going to uncomment the main component and to comment this sign in component as like this way. Okay. So now you can see that This is our main component that we have created before with a navbar, sidebar, and the right section contains a profile image. The next I am going to do is here you can see that sometimes this profile image is not showing as like this way. So I am going to change the avatar into image tag, and I am going to give the referral policy to no referral. Okay. So now you can see that it is showing the image. So I am giving a class name here, or I am going to give a style in this class name profile image, that is border radius. So now you can see that the structure like this way I am giving as like this way. So now you can see that the, yeah, it is fine. So now I am giving a width. Okay. So you can see next I am going to reduces the margin top to 10 px. Okay, fine. Next I am going to do is to list the user in the sidebar. So for I'm going to do it to go to sidebar component, and I'm going to define a new function that is get user, and as an arrow function. So I'm going to use the get doc function, get docs function from the firebase firestore as like this way. Next I'm going to use the async await, and I'm going to use the try catch. Okay. Then next I'm going to do is here I'm going to give the console dot error, and I'm passing this get doc inside this try. Okay. So next what I'm going to do is to define a variable that is user ref, as I'm using the collection function from the Firebase Firestore as like this way. So inside this collection function, I'm going to give the database as a first argument and name of the collection as the second argument. So here we have already created the collection with the name users, and next I'm going to do is I'm going to pass this user ref as the argument into this get docs function. So after that, I'm going to do is I'm going to call this get user in the use effect hook as like this way. Okay. So next, what I'm going to do is after calling this get user function, I'm going to assign this get docs to a variable data, and I'm going to log this data in the console. So you can see that in the console the details. So I'm going to take the console here. Then you can see that the data query snapshot, it is in this structure which we cannot use directly. So I'm going to convert it into the form that we can use directly. So for that I'm going to do is to define another variable that is filtered data, and in the filter data I'm going to map through the data.docs. So here you can see the docs. I'm going to map through these docs, and I'm going to give each document as doc. And first of all, I'm going to call function data on the each doc, and next I'm going to add id also into that filter data. Okay, so next I'm going to define a state that is users, I'm giving an empty array as like this way. Then next I'm going to pass that filtered data into this set users. Okay. So next I'm going to log this set users state in the console. So you can see that after that I'm going to call this user state in this dependency array as like this way. So now you can see that the details of the users. So we have logged in by using two user or Google accounts. So here you can see the ID, profile image, and the username of the both users. So next what I'm going to do is to map through this state, that is users dot map, and here I am going to return the each user. So in this return I'm going to put this paper component completely as like this way. So I'm going to copy this paper component as like this way here. Okay, so next what I'm going to do is I'm going to list the user here. So here I'm going to give the primary. Then in the primary, I'm going to give the user.username. And in the avatar, I am going to give the user.profile image. Okay, so now you can see that the list of the users who is available. So actually the current user is no don't want to list here. So I am going to filter the user other than the current user. So for that I am going to use the filter method here on the user state. So I am giving the conditions such as the user of user dot id, which is not equal to the auth dot current user dot uid. So at that time you can see that the user which is not the current user is listed. Okay, so here I am going to give the SS tag and a margin left. Okay, so I think it is fine. So next I'm going to do is to give a picture in this right bar. So for that I am going to do is to import an image from my system itself. So here I am going to import the image, that is this smartphone image. So I'm going to import that into the images folder in the project as like this way. So now you can see that this is the picture I am going to put in the right section or right bar. So in the main component I'm going to do is to use the image tag as like this way. So in this image tag I'm going to give this smartphone image in the source attribute. So for that I'm going to import the smartphone image into this main component as smartphone from images slash smartphone. Okay. So next I'm going to use that smartphone image in the source tag here, source attribute. So now you can see that the image as like this way. So next we need to reduce the size of this image. So for that I'm going to give the class name. That is I am giving the class name as like this way. That is right image. And I am going to give the class or style in the main component or main file, main.css file. Here I am going to give that is width. So now you can see that the This is the image as of now. Then next I'm going to give the margin left as like this way. Okay. So this is the structure. Next I'm going to give is I'm going to give a margin top. Okay. After that, here below this image, I'm going to add a text. So I'm going to use the h1 tag for that. So here I'm going to write the WhatsApp web for desktop. The next below that, I'm going to use the h4 tag, and here I am going to write such as keep your computer connected. Okay, so now you can see that the structure of the image and text is like this way. So next I'm going to give a class name here for this h1 and h4 tag, that is write text. So I'm giving the style to this write text as like this way. So now you can see that I'm giving that font weight. Okay, so now you can see that the structure as like this way. Okay, it is fine. Next I'm going to give the margin left as like this way. I'm going to give the text align to center, and I'm going to remove this margin left from here. At that time you can see that it will be fine. Okay, it is fine. Okay, so this is the structure of the home page as of now. Then next I'm going to give a search bar there. So for that I am going to the sidebar, and here above this loop I'm going to use the input field for search bar. So I'm going to use the input field as like this way. Okay, so now you can see the input field there. Next I'm going to use the image tag, and in the source attribute I'm going to use the image that I am going to import from my system. So I'm going to import the image of this lens as like this way, and I'm going to use it in sidebar as lens. So I'm going to import lens from images and lens.png. Okay, as like this way. So now you can see the lens image here. So I need to reduce the size of the image. So I'm going to give the class name as lens here. So for that I am going to create a new file called sidebar.css. Then inside this CSS sidebar.css I am going to give this styles to this lens. That is I am going to give the width as like this way. So now you can see that the width there. So for that I am going to import the sidebar.css into this sidebar component as like this way, sidebar.css. Okay, so now you can see that the structure of this image as like this way, it is reduced. So I am going to give the or reduces the size to 25 px. So next I'm going to do is to put this image and the input field inside a div. So I'm going to paste these two here. So now you can see that the structure as like this way. Then I'm going to give a class name to this, that is search. And here I'm going to change this into search icon. Okay, so here also I am going to change it into search icon. Okay. Then next I'm going to give the style to this search as like this way. So here I am giving as display flex and align item center. Okay. So next I'm going to do is I'm going to sidebar component and I'm giving a class name to this input field also, that is search text. Then next I'm going to give this style to this search text class name here in the sidebar dot css file. So here I am giving as width as like this way. So I am going to increase as the width. Okay. So next I'm going to give a height of. Okay. So now you can see that the. Okay, I'm reducing it. Okay. So I think it is fine. Next I'm going to give a border here and a padding as like this way. Next I'm going to give the margin left also to the search icon and also the margin left to this search text. Okay. So next I'm going to do is to give the border radius. So here before that I'm going to give the placeholder search for new chat as like this way. Then next I'm going to give the border radius for this text field. So for that I'm going to this search sidebar.css and I'm giving as border radius. Okay. Then next I'm going to give the background color for this text field. That is I'm giving the same color which we have given in the nav bar as like this way. So I'm going to copy this color and to paste it here. So now you can see that the color of this text field is like this way. Then next I'm going to give a border to this text field also here as border 1px solid, and I'm going to use the same color that we given as the background color as the border also. So you can see that this is the whole structure of the home page of this WhatsApp clone. So next I'm going to do is to install React Router DOM into our project. So for that I'm going to take the new terminal, npm install React Router DOM. So now React Router DOM will be installed into our project. Okay. So React Router DOM has been installed into our project. We can see it in the package.json as like this way. Okay. So next in this index.js, I'm going to import the browser router as like this way. After that, I'm going to wrap this app component using browser router. Okay. So next I'm going to app component and I'm going to give the route to sign in component and the main component. So here I am going to import the routes as like this way, and I'm going to wrap the root component by using these routes. So in this root component, I'm going to give root to each component. So here I'm giving the path attribute that is slash for the component sign in. And next I'm going to give the route to main component as like this way. So here I have given the slash to sign in component because it is the first page. Then next I'm going to give the path as main for the main component. As like this way. Okay, I'm going to remove the sign in and main component here. So now you can see that when we click this Google icon, we should be redirected to the home page. So for that, what I'm going to do is in the sign in component, here we know that this is the function for sign in. So here after this function, I'm going to navigate to the home component or main component. So for that, I'm going to use the use navigate hook from the React router doc as like this way. So here I am going to define a variable that is navigate and I am assigning this use navigate into that variable. So here I am going to give the navigate and I'm going to give the route to this main component. So now you can see that when we click this Google icon, we will be redirected to the main component or home page of our clone after logging in. Okay, as like this way. So here also I'm going to click on this icon and we will be redirected to the home page. Okay. So next I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new component chat.js for chat page. As like this way. Okay. Next I'm going to give the root to this chat component. So in the app.js, I'm going to add one more root component and I'm giving the root to chat component as chat and I'm adding the component in the element attribute as like this way. Okay, so we have given the root to chat component also. Next, when we click this user, we should be redirected to the chat page of the user. So for that, what we have to do is in the sidebar, we need to give link to this whole component. So here I am going to use the link component from the React router DOM as like this way. And I'm going to wrap this whole paper component by using this link. Okay. Then next I'm going to do is to give the root. That means in the to attribute, I'm going to give the root that is chat. So now we can see that when we click this user, we will be redirected to the chat page as like this way. Okay. So next, what I'm going to do is to remove this underline. So for that, I'm going to give the class name that is I'm giving as chat link and I'm going to give the style to this class name chat link in the sidebar.css that is text decoration is none. as like this way. Okay, so now you can see that the design has removed. So next, what I'm going to do is in this chat component, we have to show the details of the user. So here I am going to call the navbar component as like this way. So now you can see that here the navbar component or navbar in the chat page. But here we should show the details of the user who receives the message, that is profile image and the name. So for that, what we can do is we can pass the details from the sidebar. So here we have already using the link component to wrap this paper component or to wrap the user. So we can pass the details such as username and profile image through this link by using the state props. So here I am going to do is to use the state props as like this way, and here I am going to pass the user dot username and also the profile image as user dot profile image. Then we can receive the or use these details in the chat component by using the use location hook from the React router DOM. First of all, I'm going to define the variable that is location, and I am going to assign the use location hook to that variable. Okay. The next I'm going to do is I'm going to console this location. So at that time you can see that in the console the details such as username and the profile image of the user. So I'm going to take the console, and here I'm going to do to click on the user one more time. At that time you can see the details in the location dot state dot username and the profile image. Okay. So here what I'm going to do is next I'm going to pass the details such as username and profile image into the navbar as props. So here I'm going to give as a receiver username as the username of the receiving user. Okay, as like this way. So we can pass it as location dot state dot username as like this way. Then next I'm going to pass the profile image also. So I'm giving as a receiver profile image. I am giving as like this way, and here I am giving as location dot state dot profile image. So in the navbar, we can utilize these props. So here I am going to do is to use these details as props. So in this image tag, I'm going to give as props such as you receiver profile image. So if this receiver profile image is available, then it should show the receiver profile image. Otherwise, it should show the current user profile image. Okay. So here I am giving the props also. So props dot receiver profile image. If this props dot receiver profile image is available, it should show the profile image of the receiver. Okay. Next, I am going to give the name also next to this profile image. So for that, I am going to give another tag below this image tag, and here I am giving the props dot receiver username. So now you can see that if this receiver username is available, it should be shown. Otherwise, it should be empty. So here you can see the receiver username, and I am giving a class name also, that is receiver name. So I am giving the style to this receiver name class name here in this navbar.css. So I'm giving the style, that is receiver name color black. Okay, then next I'm going to give the, here you can see the receiver name, and next I'm going to give the font weight as like this way. So now you can see that this is a structure, and I am also giving the margin left 10 px. Okay, fine. So you can see that in this, here also, in this account also, okay, as like this way. So when we click this user, it will be redirected to chat. So next I'm going to do is to put this navbar inside a div. So I'm going to use a div here and to put this navbar inside this div. And here I'm going to give the class name for this div as chat top. Next, I'm going to create a new file, that is chat.css, and I'm going to give the style to this chat top class name. So I'm giving the style as position absolute top 0. So here you can see that. And next I'm going to do is I'm going to use another div, and inside this div I'm going to use the input field as like this way. And here in this div I'm going to give a class name. That's I'm giving the class name as chat bottom, as like this way. Then next I'm going to give the style to this chat bottom. So here I'm going to give the position absolute and bottom 0. Okay. Next, I'm going to call this or import this chat.css file here in this chat component as like this way, chat.css. So now you can see that here this is a structure. So now I'm going to give the width to 100% for the navbar div. So here I'm going to give the width as 100%. Okay. So now you can see as like this way. Next, I'm going to do is next I'm going to give the style as with 100% to this chat bottom also. So here you can see the structure. So next I'm going to do is I'm going to give a background color to this chat bottom. So I'm giving the background color as same as like that of the navbar. So I'm going to copy this color here, and I'm going to give this color code here. So now you can see the background color of this bottom of the chat page. Okay. So next I'm going to do is I'm going to give a height also. So for that I'm going to copy this height from the navbar and to paste it here. That is height 70 px, the same height as that of the navbar. You can see that here. Okay. So next I'm going to give a height and width to this input field. So for that I'm going to give a class name to this input field. That is I'm going to give a class name as chat. chat text. Okay. So next I'm going to give this style to this chat text class name. That is, I'm going to paste it here and I'm going to give the style as width 70 px, 70 percentage or 90 percentage. Okay. So next I'm going to give a height also. So I'm giving a height of about okay. So now you can see that this is a structure. Next in the chat component, I'm going to use image tag as like this way. So here in this source, I'm going to use an image. So for that, I'm going to import an image from my system to this images folder. So from here, I'm going to use this clip image and to import or paste it in this folder. And I'm going to import that into the chat component. So first of all, I'm going to rename this as clip. And now I am going to import that in this chat component as like this way. Okay. So I'm going to import as clip from images slash clip.png. Okay. So next I'm going to use that clip image in this source attribute as like this way. Okay. So now you can see the image as like this way here. So next I'm going to give a class name to this image tag also. So here I'm going to give the class name that is chat bottom icon. Then next, I'm going to define I'm going to give this style to this chat bottom icon. So here I'm going to give as width for this chat bottom icon. So I'm giving the width here as like this way. So now you can see that I'm giving as 30 px and now you can see the structure as like this way. I'm going to give the 40 px. So at that time you can see the structure as like this. Okay. So next I'm going to do is I'm going to give a class name to this or I'm going to give a style to this chat bottom class name. So here I am going to give the style as display flex and I'm going to give align items to center. Okay, so now you can see the structure as like this way. Then after that, I'm going to give a margin left to this icon and also the text field. So here I am going to give the margin left to 10 px and also okay. So next I'm going to give the margin left to this text field or input field also that is the this chat text class name. I'm giving the margin left to 10 px. So now you can see that. Next I'm going to increase of the margin left for this input field. Okay, and also to this icon. Okay, so now this is the structure. So next I'm going to give a border radius to this input field that is 10 px. Okay, then next I'm going to give a border also. So I'm giving a border of 1 px solid and the color which is same as that of the background color. Okay, so now you can see the structure as like this way. Next I'm going to give a placeholder to this input field. So here in the chat component I'm going to give the placeholder that is I'm giving as type a message. Okay, so now you can see that this is the structure. The next I'm going to give a style to this text field or placeholder also. So In this chat.css, I'm going to give the style as I'm going to give the style to this placeholder in the chat text class name. So I'm giving as padding left to 10 px. So now you can see the structure as like this way. Okay, so here it contains the chat component contains. Here also I am giving or reducing the width. Okay, now the chat component or page contains the navbar with the name and the profile image and the text field.
So next I'm going to add a background image to the center portion or a background image to this chat page. So for that, in this chat component, I'm going to give a class name to this main div. So I'm going to give the class name as chat. And in this chat.css, I'm going to give a style to this class name chat. So first I'm going to give as height 100 vh. And next I'm going to give the background image. So I'm going to use a background image from my system itself. So I'm going to import an image from my system. So this is the image that I'm going to import. So I'm going to import it into the images folder of the project. Then next I'm going to, this is the image. So next I'm going to give the root of this image, that is images slash design. So now you can see the structure as like this way.
So next I'm going to do is to send a message. So for that, I'm going to first define a new function in the chat component. So for that, I'm going to define the function that is send message. Here I am going to define an arrow function, and in the send message, I'm going to use a function from the Firebase Firestore. So the function that we need to use from the Firebase Firestore is add_dog function. Okay, so I have imported the add_dog function from the Firebase Firestore. Next, I'm going to do is to give async await as like this way. Then after that, I'm going to give the try catch, and here I am going to give the console.error. I'm going to pass the error into it as like this way. Next, I'm going to pass the add dog inside this try, and next I'm going to define a new variable that is user dog. I'm going to use a function called dog from the Firebase Firestore here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a subcollection into this Firebase database. So here we have already created a collection called users. Inside the users, we know that there is two users logged in. So in this users, I'm going to create a new subcollection. So the subcollection I'm going to create in the opposite user's ID or document. So that means, for example, we are sending messages from this user. So the user given here will get the message or the this user's ID. That means here you can see that this is the ID of this user. Okay, so I'm going to create a new subcollection in this document. So for that, I'm going to do is here, first of all, I'm going to give the database as a first argument. And as a second argument, I'm going to pass the name of the first collection. So users is the first collection that we are created. And as a third argument, I'm going to give the ID. So we have to specify the ID of the user. So here we have already told that this is the ID that we need to pass there to identify the user. Okay, so the ID will get from this location. So I'm going to console the location first. So at that time, you can see that in the console, here is the ID. So the location dot state dot state contains ID, profile image, and username. So we can use that ID here directly. So I am going to give the ID here as location dot state dot ID as like this way. Okay. The next I am going to define another variable. So I am going to give the name of the variable as message doc. So here also I am going to use the doc function from the Firebase Firestore, and as a first argument I am going to pass the user doc itself that we have already defined here. Then as a second argument I am going to pass the name of the sub collection that we are going to create. So I am going to give the name of the collection as message here. And as a third argument, I am going to pass the ID itself. So I am giving the ID which we have given here. So I am going to copy this and to paste it here as like this way. So next I am going to define a variable, that is I am going to give the name of the variable as message rough as like this way. And I am going to use the collection function from the Firebase Firestore. Then as a first argument I am going to do is to pass this message doc. And as a second argument, I'm going to pass the name of the sub-collection that we are going to create. So we know that we have already created a users collection, and inside this users collection, we are going to create a message collection. Inside that collection, we are going to create another collection called message-id. Okay, so here I am going to give the backtick, and inside this backtick, I am going to give message hyphen and id. So the id that we are given I am going to give here is the ID of the current user. So I am giving this ID to identify the user who sent the message. Okay, so for that I am going to give the ID as auth dot current user dot uid. Okay, so we have defined the three variables as like this way. So next I am going to do is to pass this message of as a first argument into this add dot function. Okay, then next I am going to do is to give the second argument, that is object. So inside this object we are going to pass the message. So for that I am going to do is to define a variable. So I am going to define a variable named message set message, which is equal to use state. Okay, the next I am going to do is to use this set message in the input field. So here we already defined an input or already used an input field. So I am going to give the set or use the set message in this on change of this input field. And here I am going to give that e dot target dot value. And I am giving here e. Okay. The next I'm going to do is to call this send message function. So for that, I'm going to use a image from my system. So for that, I'm going to import an image from my system. That means I'm going to import this image to this images folder. Okay, so this is the image that we are going to use there. So for that, I'm going to import that image in this chat component as like this way. Import send from images and send. Okay. So now we can use this send image in this image tag here. So I'm going to use the image tag as like this way, and inside the source I'm going to use the image send. Okay. Then after that I'm going to give a class name send icon. Okay, as like this way. Then next I'm going to define the send icon or give this child to this send icon class name. So here in this stat.css I'm going to give the send icon as like this way, and I'm going to give here the width. So I'm going to give here the width as 40 px. Okay. Then also I am giving the margin left, that is 10 px. So next I'm going to do is to call this send message function here in the on click of this image. Okay, so here I am going to call the send message as like this way, and you can see that next I am going to call this message or use this message state here to pass our message. Okay, so now you can see that I am going to send a message to the user. So I'm going to type here hi and I am going to click on this icon here. So now you can see that a new subcollection will be created in this Firebase document. So now you can see that in this specific document, a new subcollection is created. Only the subcollection is created in the one of the document. Okay, you can see that here. Only subcollection called message is created in this document. So when I click this icon, message collection, you can see that here is the ID that we have given, which is the same ID as like this way. Okay. So inside this document, we can see that a new subcollection. That means here we have already given that is message hyphen the ID. So that is the subcollection that we can see here. Okay. So when we click that subcollection, you can see that here is a random ID. Then here we can see the message that we have given. Okay. So we have sent the message. So next I'm going to do is to show that message here. So for that, I'm going to take the chat component. Here I am going to define another function. So I'm going to give the name of the function as show message as like this way. And I'm going to use a function from the Firebase. So I'm going to use the function called get docs. So I'm going to use the get docs, not get doc. I'm going to use get doc from Firebase Firestore. And next I'm going to do is I'm going to give async await here, and I'm giving the try catch. So here I am giving the console.error as like this way, and I am going to give get docs inside this try. Okay. Next I'm going to define variables. So I'm going to do is to copy these variables from this send message function and to paste it in the show message function here as like this way. So I'm going to bring some changes to this ID section. So I'm giving that here we have given the ID as location.state.id. So for showing that message, we need the current user's ID. So I'm going to give the auth.currentuser.uid here. Auth.currentuser.uid as like this way. And here also we have given the same ID that we have given here. So I'm going to copy this ID and to paste it here. Okay. The next I'm going to give the location.state.id. That is the ID of the user who sent the message. Okay. Not the current user ID. So location.state.id as like this way. So now you can see that I'm going to call the show message function in the use effect hook as like this way. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this or I'm going to give this message ref as an argument into this get docs function. Okay. So I'm going to assign this get docs into a data variable and I'm going to log that data in the console. So in the console you can see that so I'm going to take the console here. Then in the console, you can see that here is the query snapshot. So in the query snapshot, we can see that there is our data that we needed to show, but it is not in the form that we can use it directly. So what I'm going to do is here I am going to define another variable that is filter data, and I'm going to do is to map through the data.docs. We know that here we have already get the docs here. So I'm going to do is I'm going to map through the data.docs as like this way. So I'm going to do is I'm going to give the each document as doc. and I am going to call the function called data here. So I did dot data and it's like this way and comma. I'm going to pass the ID also dot ID. So next I'm going to do is I'm going to pass this filter data into a state variable. So for that I'm going to create another state or define another state and I'm giving the name of the state as message data. Set message data which is equal to use state. Okay. So I'm going to pass this set filter data into this set message data here as like this way. So next I'm going to log the message data in the console as like this way. So message data. So in the console we can see the message data as like this way. So I'm going to take the console as like this way. So now you can see that in the console here is the message data. Okay. It contains the message and also the ID. So I'm going to show this message here. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to map through this message data. So in this middle section, I'm going to use a div here, and here I am going to map through the message data as like this way. Message data dot map return, and I'm going to give here as data and here as data dot message. So for that, I'm going to use the paper component, and inside this paper, I'm going to give the data dot message. I'm going to give a class name here. I'm giving the name of the class as chat middle, and I'm going to define this chat middle class name, or I'm going to give the style to this chat middle class name. So I'm giving as chat middle here as like this way. I'm going to give the padding top 90 px and also the padding left as 30 px. So now you can see that the structure as like this way. Okay, so here is a message. So I'm going to give the list here and also the list item and list item text. And in this list item text, I'm going to give the primary. And inside this primary, I am going to paste this data dot message as like this way. So now you can see that the message as like this here. So here you can see that this message is only showing in this user's account. So when I take this other user's account, you cannot see the message. So we also need to show that message in this user account also. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the same sub collection as like that of here into this document also. That means, for examples, here the document of the current user. So for that, I'm going to do is to create or define a new function. So I'm going to define a new function called add message. So as like this way, I'm going to define a new function add message. And I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the whole function from here and to paste it here as like this way. So here I am going to bring some changes. That means we need to add the message to the current user. So for that, I'm going to give the ID as current user as like this way. So here we need to add the same ID here. So I'm going to copy this ID from here and to paste it here. And here I am going to give the ID of the sender who sent the message. So I'm giving as location.state.id. Okay. So next after that I'm going to do is to call this add message function inside this send message here as like this way. Okay. So now you can see that a new document or a new subcollection will be created in this current users document also. So for that I'm going to send a message again. So before that I'm going to give this message data in this dependency array. Okay, so now you can see that here is the message, and also I'm going to do is I'm going to give a sx tag here. I'm going to give a margin top of about 10 px. Okay, so now you can see the structure as like this way. So it is already shown here in this user account. So I'm going to show it in the here also. So now you can see that in the both users account we can see the sub collection. So here is also a sub collection called message, and here also we can see the sub collection called message. Okay, fine. So next I'm going to make this paper component responsive. So for that I'm going to take the chat component, and here I am going to give the style to this paper component. So I'm giving the style as width max content. Okay, as like this way. So now you can see that the paper component is now responsive. So I'm giving or I'm sending a message that is where are you now. So now you can see that this is the structure. Okay. So next I'm going to do is so as of now when we send more messages, as of now you can see that the design is not correct. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the chat.css file, and here I'm going to do is I'm going to give the minimum height as 100 vh and the height as 100 percentage. Okay. Or remove this 100 vh height from the chat class name. In the chat bottom class name, I'm going to give as fixed, and also in the chat top class name, I'm going to give as fixed here also. So now you can see the structure as like this way. It is fine. Then here I am going to give as set index 2. So here in the chat top class name, I am going to give as set index 2. So now you can see that this is a structure. Okay, fine. So next I'm going to do is I'm going to give the functionality to this clip image. So for that I'm going to the chat component, and here you can see that this is the clip image. So here I'm going to do is below this image I'm going to use an input field, and I'm going to put the type as file. Okay. So now you can see a input field of type file here. So next I'm going to do is to give a class name. I'm giving a class name as file itself. Then here in the chat.css, I'm going to give as file a class name of display none. Okay, so now you can see that the input field has been disappeared. Okay, so next I'm going to do is whenever we click this clip image, the pop-up need to be arrived for selecting the image. So for that, I'm going to do is to define a ref. So I'm giving as file ref here, which is equal to useref, and in the useref I'm giving as null, and in the on click of this clip image I'm going to give as file ref dot current dot click, as like this way. Then next I'm going to do is to give the ref to this input field. So I'm giving as ref file ref. Okay. So now I'm going to click this clip image. At that time you can see that the window for uploading file will be arrived. Okay. So next I'm going to give a style to this class name. That means the class name of the image clip chat bottom icon. So here I'm going to give as cursor pointer. Okay, as like this way. So next I'm going to do is I'm going to add this image or the file to this function for sending the message. Okay, to these two functions here. So as of now, we only send the text message. So I am also giving the images to the database. So for that, I am going to do is here in the input field, I am going to do is to give an on change. In this on change, I am going to use the set file as like this way. And next, I am going to give as e dot target dot files. So I'm putting that in URL dot create object URL, and inside this I am going to give e dot target dot files. Okay, it's like this way. Here I am taking it as event. Next I am going to define the state, that is file. So here I am going to define the state as const file set file, which is equal to use state, as like this way. Then I am giving the file here as file itself. Here also. Okay. Okay. So now I am going to send message again. So before that I am going to give the accept attribute in this input field. So here I am giving as accept. I'm only giving images. So I'm giving as image slash star. Okay. So now I'm going to select an image for uploading. So I'm selecting an image from here as like this way. So next I'm going to do is I'm going to show the preview here. So after this text, text field, I'm going to show the preview. So for that I'm going to use the image paper component itself. So here I'm going to use the paper component as like this way. And inside this paper component, I'm going to use the image tag. So in the source, I'm going to give the file state, and here I am going to give the style, that is width 70 px and padding for 3 px. So now you can see that the structure as like this way. Here is the preview. So when we click this button, this image will be added to the database. So I'm going to click on this button. So now you can see the file here in the database. So in the message collection, you can see that the file as like this way. So next I'm going to show that file in the chat page. So for that I'm going to do is I'm going to use the image tag inside this paper component. So here as like this way, and I'm giving as data.file here, and I'm giving a condition such as data.file is not equal to empty, then only we need to show this image tag. Okay, yes, like this way. So now you can see that here is the image. So I'm giving a style to that image. So here I am going to give the style as I'm giving a width for about 150 px. So now you can see the structure as like this way. Okay, so I'm going to increase the width to 200 px. Okay, fine. So I'm going to send another image as like this way. So here you can see the preview. Okay, fine. So next I'm going to do is to show the name of the sender who sends the message. Okay, so for that I'm going to do is to go to the chat component. And here we know that we are already created or defined a function called the send message. So inside the function, as of now, we are passing the message and also the file or the image. So along with that, I'm going to pass the name of the sender. That means the current user. So I'm passing as name itself, and here I'm giving as auth dot current user dot display name as like this way. Okay. So next I'm going to do is to show that name here. So here we know that in this data we will get the data dot name. So here I am using the or giving the name above the paper component or outside the paper component in the h5 tag. So I am giving as data dot name as like this way. So now you can see that the name of the sender will shown here as like this. Okay. So next I'm going to do is to give a style, that is style of font weight 200. Okay. So now you can see that here the name of the user will show as like this way. So we can identify the user who sends the message. Okay, then now you can see that here is showing the paper component after this text field, even though we are not, there is no preview. So I am going to do is I'm going to give a condition for this paper component, that is we need to show only the paper component whenever the file state is there or file state is not empty. Okay. Next I'm going to do is I'm going to make the set file or file state into empty whenever we send the message. So after sending message, I'm going to give as set file to empty. So at that time you can see that now, so as of now you can see the preview here. So I'm going to click on the send the image. At that time you can see that the image here and the preview is gone. So next I'm going to do is to give the functionality for this sign in with the phone number button. Okay, so for that I'm going to define a new component here. So I'm giving the name of the component as phone sign in dot js as like this way. And next I'm going to do is in the app.js component, I'm going to call that phone sign in component as like this way. Okay, so now you can see that here is the phone sign in component. So next I'm going to give designs to this component. So first of all, I'm going to use the phone input. So here you can see that I'm going to take the WhatsApp web. So here, when I click this link with the phone number button, you can see that here is the structure. So here you can see that there is an option for selecting the country code as like this way, a text field. And here, so I'm going to create a page as like this way, similar to this way. So for that, I'm going to do is I'm going to use the phone input React library. So I'm going to install the phone input React library from npm. So I'm going to copy this npm install React phone input 2, and I'm going to paste it in the new terminal here. I'm going to run that command. So now the React phone input 2 will be installed into our project. So now the library has been installed. So I'm going to take the package.json. You can see that in the package.json as like this way. Okay. So next I'm going to do is here in the library document. That means in the React phone input 2 document, you can see that here is an example. So for that, we need to use the phone input component. So I'm going to use the phone input component in this phone sign in. So here as like this way, phone input. Okay, so I have imported that from the React phone input too. Then inside this component, I'm giving three props. The first props I'm going to give is the country. I'm going to give default country as US. The next we need to give the props value and also the on change as like this way. Then next I'm going to do is here you can see that we have to import the React phone input style. So I'm going to copy this and to paste it below this phone input import. Okay, so now you can see the structure as like this way. I'm going to comment this value and on change. At that time you can see that this is the structure, this is the style of the country code or the input. Okay, we can select the country and selecting like this way we can enter the phone number as like this way. Okay, so next I'm going to do is I'm going to give a class name here. That is, I'm giving as phone sign in, and I'm going to create the new new file that is phone.css. So I'm going to give the style to this phone sign in class name that is phone sign in, and I'm giving as position absolute top 30 percentage left 40 percentage as like this way. So now you can see that I'm going to import the phone.css file here that is phone.css as like this way. So now you can see that the structure of the file as like this way. So here next I'm going to do is to give a button below this text field. That means here I'm going to use the button component from the material UI, and I'm giving as a name that is send OTP as like this way, and I'm giving the variant contained. So now you can see the structure of the button here. So next I'm going to do is to put this phone input and the button inside another div as like this way. So I'm going to copy or cut this phone input and the button from here and to put it in this div. And in this div, I'm going to give another class name that is I'm giving as phone content. Then I'm going to give a style to this phone content class name that is phone content as like this way. Then here I am going to give as text align to center. So now you can see that the structure as like this way. I'm going to give then next I'm going to give a style to this button. That means I'm giving as SX tag margin top 10 px. Okay, so now you can see that the structure as like this way. That is the phone input and the button. So below the button, I'm going to give another text field. So I'm going to use the text field from the material UI as like this way, and I'm going to give the variant as outlined. Then next I'm going to give the size as small and a label as enter OTP. So now you can see that the structure as like this way. Here is a text field with the label enter OTP. Okay, so next I'm going to do is to give a SX tag to this text field also. Here also I am giving as margin top 10 px, and also I'm giving a width of about 300 px. Okay, so now you can see the structure. Okay, fine. The next thing I'm going to do is to use another button component from the material UI, and I'm going to give the name of the button as verify OTP, and I'm going to give the variant as contained, and I'm going to give the color as success. So now you can see the structure here. This is a verify OTP. Then next I'm going to put this text field and the button inside this div as like this way. So now I am going to give a BR tag below the send OTP button as like this way, and also after the text field I'm going to give the BR tag. Now you can see the structure as like this. So here I am going to give a SX tag for the verify OTP button, that is SX tag with the margin top 10 px. Okay, so now you can see that here is the structure as like this way. Okay, fine. Then next I'm going to give the functionalities. So for that I'm going to uncomment this value and on change it. And here I am going to define a new state. So I'm going to define a state called phone as like this way. That is phone set to phone, which is equal to use state empty string, and I'm going to give phone to this value, and in this on change I'm going to do is to give the set to phone. So I'm giving a set to phone like this way, and inside the set to phone what I'm going to do is first of all I'm going to give the plus symbol, and I'm going to add the phone into it. Okay, so next I'm going to do is to define another function for calling it in this send OTP button. So for that I'm going to define a function that is const send OTP, which is an arrow function. So I'm going to do is I'm going to import one thing from the firebase auth. So I'm going to import the reCAPTCHA verifier from the firebase auth as like this way. Then I'm going to use as it like this way, and I'm going to give it into a variable. So I'm going to give as variable reCAPTCHA. Okay. So next I'm going to do is to give the argument into this new reCAPTCHA verifier. So I'm going to give the first argument as auth. So the first argument that we need to give inside this reCAPTCHA verifier is must be auth. The next I'm going to give the name of the ID. Here we have given a string as like this way, that is recaptcha itself. Then next I'm going to give an empty object. Okay, after that I'm going to do is I'm going to define another variable I'm giving as confirmation, and here I'm going to do is to use another function from the Firebase auth. So for that, I'm going to import that function from the Firebase auth. The function that we need to import from Firebase auth is sign in with the phone number. So I have imported that sign in with the phone number from Firebase auth, and inside the sign in with the phone number, I'm going to give the three arguments. So first argument that I'm going to pass this into the sign in with the phone number is first is auth, then second is the phone. That means the state we have defined. Then third is the recaptcha. That means the variable that we have defined before. Okay, that's like this way. Next, I'm going to do is I'm going to console this confirmation as like this way. So next, I'm going to give async await, and a try catch. Console dot error, and I'm giving this into this try. Okay, so now you can see that the structure as like this way. I'm going to call the function that is send OTP in the button send OTP. Okay, here I'm going to call this in the on click of this button send OTP. Then next I'm going to give here phone. Okay, so after entering the phone number, I'm going to click on the send OTP. At that time, a recaptcha section for verifying that I'm not the robot will came here. So for that, we have to give a div for showing that verification. So I'm giving here an empty div as like this way, and here I am going to give ID. So we have already given a name that is reCAPTCHA as a second argument in this reCAPTCHA verifier. So it is because we need to give that same name here. So I am giving as reCAPTCHA here as well. Okay. Okay. So before hitting the send OTP button, I'm going to do one main thing. Here you can see that in the sidebar there is authentication. So I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new provider. So here you can see that in the sign in method, we have an option for adding new provider. So I'm going to click on this new provider addition. And here you can see that we can add the phone number provided by clicking here. And next I'm going to click on this enable button and this save button. So this phone authentication is enabled. So now I'm going to the project and I'm going to click on this send OTP button. So at that time, you can see that I am not a robot. Div will be arrived as like this way. Here I am going to give a style as well. So I'm giving here as the margin top 10 px. So here I'm giving as margin top 10 px as like this way. And then now you can see that here as like this way. So I'm going to click on this empty space to show that I'm not a robot. Then next I'm going to take the console. At that time, you can see that here is the confirmation result. So we will get these details when we log this confirmation. Okay. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to define another function. So I'm going to define a function called verify OTP. That is verify OTP, an arrow function. And I'm going to do is I'm going to pass this confirmation into a state. So for that I'm going to define a new state, that is user set user use state. Here I am giving as null, and I'm going to pass this confirmation into this set user as like this way. That is confirmation. Okay. Then now we will get this user here in this verify OTP function. So what I'm going to do is here I am going to do is to use that user user dot confirm. This confirmation contain an property called confirm. So I am going to call that function here, and I am going to pass an OTP that we will get in our mobile phone. So for that, I am going to do is to define another state. So here I am going to give it as OTP, set OTP as like this way, which is equal to use state empty string. Then I am going to pass the set OTP into this text field on change of this text field as like this way. So I am giving as set OTP e.target.value. Okay, and I am giving as even here. Okay, so now you can see that we will get the OTP in this state. So I am going to pass this OTP state into this confirm. Okay, that is user.confirm here. And I am giving here async await and try catch as like this way. Okay, then I am giving here as console.error error, and I am going to pass this user.confirm into this try. Okay, next I am going to do is to call this verify OTP in this button. That is in the on click of the button. I am going to call the verify OTP function as like this way. Okay, so now you can see that here I am going to enter my mobile number again, and I am going to click on the send OTP button, and I am going to click on this blank space to show that I am not a robot. At the time, you can see that a verification code is arrived into my phone number. So I am going to type that verification code as like this way, and I am going to click on this verify OTP. Okay, so as of now, you can see that I am going to define a new variable. I'm going to give as data, and I'm going to assign this user.confirm into it, and I'm going to log that data here, that is console.data. So I'm going to click on the verify OTP again. Okay, it is showing as it is expired. I'm going to select the country code, and I'm going to give my phone number, and next I'm going to click on the send OTP button. At that time, this I am not a robot or reCAPTCHA div will be appeared, and I'm going to click on this empty space. At that time, you can see that the user will be verified and an OTP is sent to my phone number. I am going to give that OTP here. The next I'm going to click on this verify OTP. At that time you can see that a result will be in the console, that is user credential. So in this user credential you can see that in the user there is phone number. Okay. So I'm going to do is to use navigate hook from the React router DOM to navigate into the home page or main component after verifying. So if this data dot user dot phone number is available, then we should navigate to the main component. So for that, I'm going to use the use navigate. That is, I'm giving as navigate, and I'm going to use the use navigate hook as like this way. I have imported the use navigate from React router DOM, and I'm going to give as navigate here, and I'm going to do is I'm going to give as like this way to the main component. That means data dot user dot phone number is available, then only then only we should be navigate into the main component. So I'm going to verify one more time. At that time, I'm going to select my country and I'm going to give my phone number here again. And I'm going to click on this send OTP button. At the time, this I'm not a robot will be arrived and I'm going to click on this empty space and I will get the OTP. So here I am typing this OTP, that is 676 verify OTP. At that time, you can see that the user will be verified and the user will be go to the main component. Here we can see the main as like this way. So in the app component, I'm going to uncomment this route and I'm going to create a new route, that is a route with the path, that is phone, and I'm going to do is to give the element, that is phone sign in component. Okay, and I'm going to uncomment this section also as like this way. The next I'm going to do is in the sign in component, I'm going to give a link to this button, that is link such as to phone. Here we have already given the phone. Okay, so I am giving phone here and I am giving a style, that is text decoration to none. So now you can see this. I'm going to click on the sign in with the phone number button. At that time, we will be redirected to the. So here I am going to give button inside this link. Okay. So now you can see that I'm going to click on the sign in with the phone number button. At that time, we will be redirected to this phone sign in section. I am giving here, that is in the H2 tag, I am going to give as enter your phone number. And I am giving here, that is style font weight 200. So now you can see the structure as like this way. I am going to give here text align sender. Text align to sender. So now you can see the structure as like this. Okay. Then below that I am going to use another tag, that is I am going to use the H5 tag. Enter phone number. Next I am going to give a style here also. Here I am giving the style, that is font weight for about 200. So now you can see that I am going to give as text align sender. Then also you can see that here is a structure as like this way. Okay, so I am going to give here the font weight as 500 and also the color as gray. Okay, next I am going to reduces the top here. So I am giving as 25 as like this way. So now you can see that the structure, or I am giving as 20 Okay, I think it is fine. I'm giving us 37 here. Okay, so now you can see the structure as like this way. So next I'm going to select a country code again, and I'm going to enter my phone number. Then next I'm going to click on this send OTP button.
A new OTP is arrived into my phone. I'm going to enter that OTP here. After that, I'm going to click on this verify OTP button. At that time, you can see that we will be redirected to the home page or the main component.
So next I'm going to do is to add the logout functionality. So for that, I'm going to import an image from my system. So I have downloaded an image. So here, this is the image. So I'm going to import that image. So this is the image. So next I'm going to the navbar component, and here I'm going to add this image in this image tag as like this way. So in the source attribute, I'm going to add the image. So I'm going to give the image that is logout.png. So I'm going to import that image here, that is as logout from images and logout.png. Next, I'm going to use that image here as logout itself, and I'm going to give here a class name that is logout icon. Next, I'm going to give style to that class name in the navbar.css file. So here I'm going to give as logout icon. I'm giving a width of about 30 px. So now you can see that this is the logout icon. I'm going to give for about 15 px. Okay. Next, I'm going to give a cursor pointer. So this is the structure. Next, I'm going to do is to give the functionality for this logout button or image. So for that, I'm going to the navbar.js file, and here I'm going to define a new function. So I'm going to define a function called the logout, which is an arrow function, and I'm going to do is to use the sign out functionality from the firebase auth. So I have imported the sign out from the firebase auth. So I'm giving here at the name of the logout image as out. So I'm using it as out here, out.png. Okay. Okay. So now I'm giving here async await. Here also I'm giving a source in the source tag the image as out. The next I'm going to give the await here, and I'm giving here try catch. Inside this catch I'm going to give this console.error error as like this way. Then I'm going to pass this sign out function into this try. Okay. So next I'm going to do is to call this logout function in the on click of this image logout. So I'm going to call this function in the on click as like this way, that is logout. Next I'm going to do is next I'm going to give the auth here. Okay. The next I'm going to do is to log the auth.current user in the console as auth console.log auth.current user. Next, I'm going to click on the logout button. At that time, you can see that the auth.current user is null as of now. Okay. When we take the user and go to the chat page, you can see that here it is showing the logout button in this chat page also. Here I am going to give a style of margin left as like this way. So I am giving here as margin left 10 px. So now you can see that the structure here. Okay. So after clicking this logout button, we have to redirect it to the sign in component after logging out. So for that, I'm going to use the use navigate hook from the React router DOM. So I'm giving as use navigate as like this way. I have imported the use navigate from React router DOM, and I'm going to do is to give this navigate after the sign out but function as a slash. So now you can see that I'm going to click on this logout button. At that time, we will be redirected to this sign in component or sign in page. Okay. If this video is helpful to you, please consider subscribing to your channel, like the video, and comment your feedback. Thank you.